Welcome back to Bazaar Morning Call. Hope you're having a good morning. Well, let's get some fundamental analysis going on all the stocks that we listed out for you. Deven Choksey, MD at DRChoksey Finserv, joins us on the show. Hi, Deven. Let's talk about the big stock, L&T. In terms of their order guidance, the commentary is quite positive when they revise that upwards. The disappointment has come in on their margins. How would you view the stock post this recent big run that we have seen?
Yes, Nigel, good morning. Well, I guess I think absolutely spot on. The order book remains, I think, very convincing. In fact, I think quarter after quarter, if you study the pattern of inflow, you find incremental inflows of new orders coming in. And that's where probably one gets greater confidence because these orders get executed over 3 to 5 years period. And that gives you the visibility of sustainability as well. However, as discussed earlier as well, the challenge is going to be always in the area of, I think, maintaining the margin because the cost pressure is continuing in the business. And I guess I think it is universally across, wherein probably I think the company would face the challenge of maintaining this particular margin. So give and take on this aspect that on one side you have sustainability factor established, on the other side I think margin would remain under pressure. And if at all any surprises comes, I think it might come through some of the newer projects, particularly in the space of renewables and others, where probably the company may be able to ask for better margins. But I think that would probably be few quarters away, as I see. So as of now, I think the stock factors fully as far as I think the earnings are concerned into the price.
Okay, all right. Seems like a crow as well wants to chip into our conversation. So that's a little bit of some background music we're getting there. But Deven, hi, good morning. PB Fintech actually is the one that I want to talk about. And not just PB Fintech, right, which has reported profits for the first time. But a lot of these platform companies, Zomato has been gaining a lot of ground after Blinkit's been doing very well. Delivery has come back on investors' radar as well. What would your pick of the pack be here?
I think, Sonia, good morning. Well, I guess I think the companies have the new generation of companies, particularly Zomato, has shown, I think, relatively better ability to go for the higher amount of margins. And they have been collecting money, I think, on the per order delivery basis, which is giving relatively better amount of stability to their earning books and their revenue books rather at this point of time. Whether I think the valuation fully justifies this particular move, I'm not too sure. I believe that even if the incremental amount of revenue that they are collecting through this particular process, particularly in case of Zomato, I believe that I think they're still relatively away from, I think, the justification on the valuation front. Currently, on the valuation above 1 lakh crore, I think, which is the market cap, I guess I think the company will have to significantly ramp up the revenue model and the profits for justifying the kind of price that the stock is commanding at this point of time in the market.
Have you looked at SRF numbers, Deven? Numbers came and again, I mean, it's disappointing, I think, for the third or the fourth straight quarter. But they're saying that maybe this is, again, it's an expectation that things are at the bottom, earnings will trough. The management, I think, on the call also said that things will look better than what we've had so far. Your approach, SRF?
Yeah, Prashant. Well, I believe that I think this is true with most of the chemical companies today. And I think the third quarter is not something which one would find great results with many of the companies. But the most important part is that I think in the third quarter, the pricing scenario has stabilized. And I think the companies, of course, I think they were having the businesses, I think, to talk about particularly the specialty chemical companies where they have got the export related business as well. Not completely sure about SRF at this point of time, but from whatever I heard on the management side, I believe that I think the company is basically now seeing the better opportunity starting from the end of third quarter, getting into the fourth quarter already they have started. Believe that I think the businesses are improving as far as the numbers are concerned. And particularly on the margin front, we should be seeing the better numbers going forward from the fourth quarter onwards. So maybe one can argue that the stock has languished in the performance for some time now. And I think the price performance could possibly start improving with the improvement in the margins in the fourth quarter and thereafter. So one could possibly buy the stock at current levels given the possibilities of better margin as well as the performance in the next financial year.
Okay, all right. Deven, I wanted your view on, these RAC players. Voltas as well as Blue Star, both of them came out with a set of numbers. I'm just looking at it, in terms of growth. Blue Star's done much better. It's outpaced any of its competition, both for the last quarter as well as for the last 9 months. The stock price as well has reflected that. But what's your view on both of them? Because Voltas continues to disappoint and Blue Star continues to, surprise positively.
I think my reading says that I think slippages in case of Voltas is largely in the area of project side. I think some of the projects probably haven't materialized, and that's where probably the numbers are not looking as strong vis-a-vis the other peers in the industry, particularly Blue Star. So I guess I think once again they are entering into the better season now, the last quarter of the financial year, and also I think the first quarter of the next financial year would be the peak season for this particular business, and that's where one could argue for relatively better performance on the execution side. But I must say that I think all these companies have actually factored into their price the kind of possible performance that they would be getting into in the fourth quarter as well as in the next quarter. So from that perspective, how much upside in the stock price I think is there? I'm not too sure. On the contrary, I feel that I think companies, if they fail to perform on the expectations, probably I think they would have the possibility of I think the stock getting derated. So that is where one will have to be a little bit more careful. At this point of time, we believe that great business, great opportunities around, but at the same time, I think the price is factoring everything. The valuations are not easily cheap at this point of time, so one will have to wait for some time.
Okay, that's on Voltas. Stock, numbers were below street estimates. In fact, many actually non-index large caps have reported weak numbers this time, right? Not just Voltas, SRF, the margins were weak. Something like a VIP, which is in this travel space, has been under a lot of pressure, very weak numbers as well. Deven, I wanted your thoughts on the NBFC space. What do you do with M&M Finance? Numbers are not bad, but the company has scaled down their guidance. They're saying margins are weak, etc. How are you positioned on the stock?
Well, I think NBFC space in general, Sonia, would have some amount of challenges. Of course, Bajaj Finance has given relatively better numbers, and actually speaking, I think the company is showing, I think, far more better strength than ever before. I think not too sure about, I think, many other NBFC companies, whether they would be in a position to maintain the liability side as effectively as the company like Bajaj has maintained. I'm not too sure on that particular aspect about, I think, the cost and the NIM factor going forward as well. So one will have to bifurcate between the NBFC companies where exactly the situation is remaining relatively stronger. I feel that I think the likes of Bajaj Finance, I think, remains relatively more stronger play, including Poonawalla along with, which has shown relatively better performance. I would think that I think those kind of companies would remain a better choice in the portfolio for investment purpose.
Deven, we'll leave it there. Great chat as always. Thank you very much for joining in and appreciate your time here at CNBC-TV18.